Life is a strange and brutal teacher when people expect you to chase, to plead, to crumble in their absence. They aren't just testing your loyalty, they're testing your strength. And when you refuse to play the game, when you choose silence over desperation, that's when the real shift happens. She expected you to fall apart. She expected texts at 2 a.m., apologies you didn't owe, desperate attempts to win back something that never truly belonged to you. But instead you walked away. And now, that silence is louder than anything you could have said. Because you see, absence creates a vacuum, and vacuums demand to be filled. Human nature is wired for reciprocity. When we lose something and it doesn't chase us, we start to question its value. Wait a second, why aren't they begging? Was I wrong? Did I underestimate them? And that's where the real power lies. Not in words, not in pleading, but in absence. This is not about manipulation. It's about dignity. If someone chooses to leave, let them. If they pull away, let them go. If they expect you to shatter in their wake, prove them wrong, not for revenge, not for ego, but because your self-worth is not up for debate. You must understand, people do not respect what is easily available. We chase what eludes us. We crave what we cannot fully possess. And when you become the thing that cannot be possessed, when you are the one who does not fold under pressure, that's when the tables turn, and maybe, just maybe, she'll realize what she lost. Not because you told her, not because you begged, but because the silence forced her to see what she never appreciated in the first place. Let your absence do the talking, and while she's left wondering, you'll be too busy becoming the person she regrets losing. Silence is not weakness. It is the ultimate form of control. When you refuse to engage in the chaos someone else has created, you send a message that cannot be ignored. People expect noise. They expect reactions, desperate attempts to repair what they so carelessly broke. But when you give them nothing, you force them to sit with the weight of their own decisions. They assumed you would collapse, that you would grasp for any shred of connection left between you. But instead, you chose stillness. And in that stillness, they begin to crumble. The mind cannot tolerate a void. It searches for meaning, for closure, for an explanation that justifies its actions. When you react, you provide that justification. You give them a reason to believe they were right in leaving and betraying and abandoning you. But when you meet their expectations with indifference, their certainty begins to erode. Every moment they expected a message, a call, an apology, and received nothing, they are left to wrestle with the consequences of their own arrogance. They thought they held the power. They assumed that walking away would leave you broken, that their absence would be a punishment you could not bear. But silence flips the dynamic entirely. It is no longer you who suffers, it is them. Because now they are alone with their thoughts, and those thoughts grow louder with each passing day. They expected control, and instead they are the ones losing it. When you refuse to beg, you show them who truly held the value all along. People do not expect strength in the face of rejection. They anticipate desperation, tears, endless justifications for why you deserve another chance. They never considered that you might be the one who was too good for them. And the moment that realization dawns, it is devastating. The absence of your presence is a mirror they cannot avoid. It reflects back every flaw they tried to project onto you. It forces them to confront the truth they buried beneath their ego. They left because they thought they could, because they believed you needed them more than they needed you. But silence exposes that lie, and once it is exposed, it cannot be ignored. People learn through loss. They only understand what was real when it is no longer available to them. And when you withhold your energy, when you refuse to waste another ounce of yourself on someone who treated you as disposable, you become the lesson they never saw coming. They thought they could replace you, that moving on would be effortless. But silence ensures that every comparison falls short, that every new connection feels hollow, that every attempt to move forward is haunted by the echo of what they threw away. Your silence is a wall they cannot climb. It is an answer more deafening than any words could ever be. It does not beg, it does not argue, it does not justify. It simply exists, unshaken, undeniable. And that kind of power is rare. It is terrifying. It is unforgettable. They will replay every moment, searching for the mistake that pushed you away. They will wonder if they misjudged, if they acted too soon, if they ruined something they can never repair. And the longer you remain silent, the more those thoughts consume them. Doubt is a slow poison, and once it takes hold, it spreads relentlessly. Every person they meet will now exist in the shadow of who you were, because they expected you to beg, and instead you became the one thing they could not reach. They thought they could live without you, but your silence has made them question everything, and that, more than anything, is the greatest revenge. When something is always present, it is taken for granted. When something is always available, its value is diminished. But when it is gone, when it is suddenly out of reach, the absence creates a vacuum that demands to be filled. People do not realize what they had until it is no longer an option, until the space it once occupied becomes unbearable. They thought you would always be there, always waiting, always willing to give just one more chance. But now, there is nothing. And nothing is louder than words could ever be. Loss rewires the mind. It forces reflection, forces regret, forces a painful confrontation with reality. They assumed they could walk away without consequence, that moving on would be simple, that your presence was a convenience rather than a privilege. But absence changes everything. It removes comfort. It strips away certainty. It turns confidence into doubt. They believed they could replace you, but the void you left behind is not so easily filled. Everywhere they turn, there is a reminder of what they lost. In the spaces where your voice used to be, there is now silence. In the places you once stood, there is now emptiness. The habits they built around you are now broken, and in that brokenness, they begin to understand. They expected freedom to feel like relief, but instead it feels like something is missing. Because it is. And that realization is inescapable. Absence forces the truth to surface. When something is readily available, its worth is assumed, never questioned. But when it is gone, the mind is left to evaluate what it meant. And what it meant is now more powerful than anything they could have imagined. The space you occupied was not just physical, it was emotional, mental, undeniable. And now it lingers as an ache they did not anticipate. People assume they can dictate the terms of loss. They assume they can leave and return as they please, that they can walk away and still hold control. But absence is the ultimate betrayal of that assumption, because when you are no longer an option, they are left with nothing but their own choices, and those choices begin to suffocate them. They thought detachment would be easy. They expected to move forward without a second thought, but now every second thought is of you. Every quiet moment is filled with questions they never thought they would ask. Every fleeting distraction feels hollow in comparison to what they once had. Because when something is missing, it is not the presence that haunts, it is the absence. The human mind is addicted to closure. It seeks resolution, it craves certainty, it cannot tolerate unfinished business. And your absence has denied them that closure. There are no explanations, no reassurances, no lingering ties to soften the blow, only the stark, undeniable truth that you are no longer there. And the weight of that truth is heavier than anything they have ever carried. They wanted to believe you were replaceable, that someone else could fill the space you left behind. But people are not interchangeable. Connections are not easily replicated. And what you gave, what you provided, what you were, is not something they can simply find elsewhere. The realization comes slowly, painfully, and by the time it does, it is too late. Absence does not ask for attention, it demands it. It is not loud, yet it is impossible to ignore. It does not beg to be acknowledged, yet it becomes the only thing that matters. And the longer it lingers, the deeper it cuts. They thought they had the power in leaving, but now it is your absence that holds power over them. Regret is a slow poison. It does not strike all at once. It seeps in little by little until it is all-consuming. They believed they could forget, that they could move on without consequence. But now they are trapped in a cycle of what-ifs, replaying every moment, searching for the mistake that led them here. And the more they search, the more they realize the mistake was letting you go. Desperation is the fastest way to lose value. The moment you beg for someone's attention, the moment you lower yourself in an attempt to be chosen, you strip yourself of the very thing that makes you worthy. People do not cherish what is handed to them without effort. They do not admire what is always available. They respect what they must earn, what they must work for, what they fear losing. And when you refuse to chase, when you refuse to plead, you remind them that you are not something to be taken lightly. There is nothing more unattractive than neediness. The second they sense that you require their validation, they hold the power. They see you as an option rather than a priority, a backup plan rather than a necessity. But when you refuse to seek their approval, when you stand firm in your own worth, you take that power back. You become the one who dictates the terms, the one who is in control, the one they must now prove themselves to. Respect is built on strength. It is built on the ability to walk away rather than accept less than you deserve. It is built on the quiet confidence that says, I do not need you. I choose to be here. But if I am not valued, I will leave. That kind of presence is rare. That kind of presence is unforgettable. And that kind of presence makes them question everything they thought they knew. People only value what they believe they can lose. When something is scarce, it becomes precious. When something is uncertain, it becomes desirable. But when something is always there, it becomes invisible. If you make yourself too easy to access, too willing to forgive, too eager to please, you diminish yourself in their eyes. But the moment you show that you are willing to walk away, the moment you refuse to compromise your worth, they begin to see you differently. They expected you to fight for them. They expected you to prove your love, to beg for another chance, to show them that they were irreplaceable. But when you did not, when you met their indifference with silence, they were forced to confront a reality they never prepared for. You were not the desperate one. You were the one who knew their value. And nothing is more unsettling than realizing you misjudged someone's strength. Self-respect is not just a concept. It is an energy, a force that can be felt in every action, in every word unspoken, in every step taken away from what does not serve you. It tells the world exactly how you expect to be treated. And when you carry that energy, people have no choice but to adjust or be left behind. They thought you would settle. They thought you would accept breadcrumbs, that you would tolerate inconsistency, that you would make excuses for their behavior. But when you did not, when you demanded more by refusing to accept less, they realized they had underestimated you. They had mistaken your kindness for weakness, your patience for passivity. And now it is your absence that makes them regret ever believing you would always be there. Chasing someone who does not appreciate you does not prove love. It proves insecurity. It tells them that they can mistreat you and still have access to you. It tells them that their actions have no consequences. But when you refuse to engage, when you refuse to lower yourself to that level, you send a message that cannot be ignored. I will not fight for a place in your life. Either you see my worth or you lose me. Nothing is more powerful than the realization that someone you thought needed you does not. That someone you expected to crumble is standing stronger than ever. That someone you assumed would wait forever has moved on without hesitation. That realization is brutal. It forces them to confront the truth that they were never as necessary to you as they believed. People respect what they cannot control. The moment they feel you slipping away, the moment they recognize that you are not waiting for them to change, they are forced to reassess everything. Suddenly the power dynamic shifts. Suddenly they are the ones who feel uncertain, insecure, afraid. Because the one who does not chase is the one who is chased. The one who does not beg is the one who is desired. The one who does not settle is the one who is remembered. The greatest mistake you can make is proving to someone that you are afraid to lose them. Because the second they know that, they know they can treat you however they want. But when you show them that your life does not revolve around them, that your value is not tied to their validation, they begin to see you differently. They begin to understand that losing you is not just an inconvenience, it is a consequence. The hardest lesson people learn is that those who refuse to chase are often the ones worth chasing. That those who do not beg are the ones who are truly valuable. That those who do not stay where they are not appreciated are the ones who are impossible to forget. And when they realize that too late, when they finally see what they have lost, there is nothing they can do to get it back. Detachment is not a weakness, it is a transformation. The moment you stop seeking validation from those who took you for granted, you step into a power they never saw coming. They thought you would wait, that you would cling to false hope, that you would shrink in their absence. But instead, you used the silence to rebuild, to evolve, to become something beyond their reach. And now, they no longer recognize the person they once dismissed. Pain is the greatest catalyst for growth. It strips away illusions, forces you to confront reality, and demands that you rise above what once held you back. They expected you to break, to remain frozen in place, to be haunted by the loss. But the greatest mistake they made was assuming you needed them to survive. Because now, the version of you that existed in their presence no longer exists. Every second you spent waiting for them was a second wasted. Every moment you spent trying to prove your worth was energy misused. Now that focus is redirected not on winning them back, but on becoming someone who no longer needs what once hurt them. And that shift is more powerful than any revenge. They thought their absence would destroy you, but absence does not destroy the strong. It refines them. It forces clarity. It forces elevation. It forces the birth of a version of you that does not tolerate less than they deserve. And while they expected you to be mourning, you were busy turning that pain into the foundation of something unshakable. The mind adapts. The heart heals. The soul learns. They believed they were irreplaceable, that you would never find someone better, that their presence was essential to your happiness. But detachment reveals the truth. It was never them. It was always you. Your strength, your value, your ability to rise when they expected you to fall. They will look for traces of the old you, the one who would have done anything to keep them, the one who forgave too easily, the one who made excuses for their behavior. But that version of you is gone, and what stands in their place is someone they can no longer manipulate, no longer control, no longer keep on standby while they explore their options. Distance breeds clarity. When you are caught in the cycle of longing, you cannot see the truth. But when you step away, when you cut the cord, when you refuse to entertain what does not serve you, everything becomes clear. You were not the one losing them. They were the ones losing someone who truly cared. And now they have to live with that knowledge. People do not expect you to change without them. They assume their absence will keep you stuck, keep you waiting, keep you hoping. But when you detach, when you grow in ways they never anticipated, they are left with nothing but regret. Because now they are faced with a reality where you no longer need them, no longer think of them, no longer view them as the center of your world. They thought their presence defined your worth. But detachment proves otherwise. It shows them that their validation was never necessary, that their approval was never required, that their love, if it even was love, was not the foundation of your existence. And once they realize that, once they see that you are thriving without them, it shatters the illusion they built in their minds. They expected you to seek closure, to chase answers, to need explanations that justify their choices. But the greatest form of closure is transformation. When you evolve past the version of yourself that once begged for them, you show them that their absence was not a loss, it was a gift a gift that freed you from a connection that no longer deserved you. Nothing is more haunting than realizing you were someone's greatest mistake, that they let go of something they can never get back, that while they remained stagnant, you kept moving forward, that while they expected you to mourn, you were using the time to rebuild, and now the gap between who you were and who you have become is too wide for them to cross. They thought time would bring you back. They thought distance would make you miss them more, but what they never considered was that time does not just heal, it transforms. It removes illusions, it exposes truths, it shows you what was real and what was never meant to last. And now, standing on the other side of that transformation, you no longer see them as the loss they once seemed to be. They believed they were your best option. But detachment proves that the best was always yet to come, that the future held something greater, that you were never meant to stay in the small space they confined you to, that the world had more to offer than what they could give. And that truth, more than anything, is what breaks them. Because now they see it too. When you detach, you stop seeking external validation. You stop looking for reassurance. You stop hoping they will return. Because by then you have already moved beyond what they could ever provide. And once that shift happens, once you realize that their role in your life was never as important as you made it out to be, you become untouchable. You become a force they cannot ignore. Growth is the ultimate revenge. Success is the final answer. Becoming the person they never believed you could be is the most powerful response, because now the tables have turned. Now they are the ones left wondering, questioning, regretting. And while they remain trapped in the past, you are walking confidently toward a future that no longer includes them. Silence is not weakness, it is power. Absence is not surrender, it is transformation. Detachment is not loss, it is rebirth. They expected you to break, to beg, to chase after something that was never truly yours, but instead you chose strength, you chose dignity, you chose yourself. And that choice shattered every illusion they had about their own importance. They thought they held the power by walking away, but they never considered what would happen when you refused to follow. They never imagined that their absence would be the very thing that set you free. And now, as they sit in the silence they created, as they struggle to fill the void left by your indifference, they are forced to confront the truth. You were never the one who lost. They were. You do not prove your worth by begging to be chosen. You prove it by refusing to settle, by walking away from those who do not see your value, by becoming the person they regret losing. And when that moment comes, when they finally understand what they let go of, it will be too late, because by then you will have outgrown them, you will have risen beyond their reach, you will have become someone they no longer deserve. Let your silence remind them of what they lost. Let your absence haunt them. Let your transformation be the answer to every doubt they ever had. And while they drown in regret, you will be standing at the top, untouchable, undeniable, unforgettable.